they're ahead of Benji in 5th place. You know, so much potential for things to go wrong in the draw spot, but you know, it's going well for them.
Yeah, that was basically a story of whoever has the best draw, right, for the main building. Because DK's Bad Sniper, if they get it, they're going to land on the main building. If Benji, Fishy, and Mr. Savage get it, they're landing on the main building. The other team goes to the south. It's like, that's what's happened basically every game. Or they 50-50'd. And in that instance, it's mainly been Benji and Savage who have actually won off there.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you, there's just so much to unpack, right? There's just so many of these, like, super small details that if you're not, like, really looking for them, they might just go over your head, and you're like, what happened here? And it's these small details. Really quickly, let's remind ourselves of what those predictions were. Which of these duos we think could walk away new duos champions? Me and Boop, we're holding it down. We believe, Boop. It's Thomas, HD, and Tayson.
Please make it happen today. I cannot be losing against resub Shayo and Levin. My ego cannot take it. Please, Tayson and casters, please stop cursing them and saying they have good loots.
Look, me alongside Sharon and Levin also going for Hen and Queasy, but most importantly on top of that, my mum messaged me today saying she's rooting for Hen and Queasy as well. So, you know what? That's how could you not win when you've got my mum and me both supporting you?
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Don't worry, if you want to hear more from Boop and Reese, we'll be back between games to break down all the action. But for now, we're kicking off day 2 of the FNCS Finals here in Europe. We've got 11-2K. We've got Shy Wager standing by. Now, let's jump on that bus. Here we go.
Motivation, drive, hunger, a yearning for greatness. 100 players still feel these emotions because there's 6 games still on the line.
This is the FNCS Finals, the second day at it. My name is 11-2K. I'm joined by Shayo Wager, and that emotion is what we live for. It doesn't get much better than this.
Not at all right now. We have the Kings on high ground in first place with Pink and Anas. We have the next generation rolling through with Clown and Grolls, and past that through the Fire and Flames, Lincoln Default. You heard it on the desk. 3 people contesting the 11, and they're in the top 3 still. That's unheard of.
And the greatest thing about it is the fact that so much can change, right? We know with the nature of the format, we know all these teams from about 1 to 20 even have a chance to really go at it going into these final games. And who will be the one to take it is left to be seen.
We saw yesterday, one fight, one wrong call, a zone pull you didn't expect. Suddenly, it's a swing maybe for you. 59 points all the way towards the top, Benji Savage style. Or you're just dropping down to the depths, wondering what your next POI drop is. Well, there's no more day 3. There's no more what happens tomorrow. It's all on the line today. 6 games, and we'll start it off with 1 there, 11. But still, what do we expect? We'll have to see live off that bus. Game 1 is starting right now.
Who can be in control of their own destiny? There's 6 games to decide. There's never been more nerves than this, right? This season, Chapter 3. So many new additions, new POIs, new duos, and we'll have a new champion at the end of the day. Right into Chonkers. The analysts broke it all down. Loads of action going here, and Swilliam is no secret. Oh, wow. Swilliam, I was going to say, isn't shy by any means, but he will be taken out rather swiftly. And so Floking Clement will win that battle on the north side. But we still know Default and Link will be lurking in the shadows, ready for their opportunity to get involved.
Yeah, everyone on the top 3 right now struggling a little bit off that spawn. Grolls as well, hitting those shins over and over again. Zestin does not want to go down, and I can see the pattern too. It's top 3 versus 33 or 43 at this moment in terms of placement for Zestin and Hookah. They're still pushing in, and that's one of our Titans down.
Yeah, that's going to be huge, right? And this is what we were just saying. So much can change. One off spawn, lost, and that 3rd place slot for them, unlikely to be there by the end of this one.
Yeah, if you're just joining us right now as well, you missed maybe the format explainer or what's really breaking down. You've only watched the Sunday because that's where, you know, the final banger games are prevalent. This is a 12-game format entirely, 6 games already played before. Everyone understands now their stakes, their story, and you'll see the cheese traps in play. Scram rolling through 15th place overall, up against what looks like Melody and Kefi right now. And unfortunately, he's stuck inside these mines. 36 rolls in and takes him down. Refscar's left alone.
Yeah, you saw Scram, he messed up the edit, and then he didn't have enough time to delay. I'm sure that's what his goal was, right? To delay as long as he could for Refscar to come to his aid. But again, a technical error, and it cost him his life.
Yeah, this is going to be de facto game number 7 inside that total format. Nice from Melody, and you'll be noticing this throughout, I feel like, this entire first game 11. Everyone counter-stratting the stories and what happened yesterday from everyone who should be comfortable near the top.
Because they know, right? They know how powerful it is. If they can just get one of these games pop off in the end game, get a couple eliminations, the points really do stack up. The finest of margins are the difference, right, between these teams on the leaderboard. And like Zeke was saying, it's life-changing money. Everybody has an opportunity to push their way up high in the standings. It's just all about whether you can deliver in the moment. Vino and Joe, the team on our screens here, they very much delivered out of Sleepy day one, winning 5 of the games, or 5 of the off-spawn battles, I should say, that they had out of that spot.
It's a team mode, though, right? There's no way Joe and Vino can push towards top 10 playing as solos, because I feel like that's what we saw yesterday over and over again. If they have to fix one thing, it's starting to play the mode, man. Stay alive.
Yeah, the cohesion wasn't all there, right? There were times when it actually became a bit comical, right? Vino would be down, Joe would, you know, go to reboot him, then Joe would go down, and Vino had to try to reboot Joe. It was just an endless cycle of them playing as solos, like you said. But again, right, they've had a night to reset. Hopefully a good 8 hours of sleep, right, as well. And now they can reset, and that will be applied to their opposition, right? Seti and Chapix at Sleepy would have needed the same thing. They really struggled there, but it's fine, right? Because they have these 6 days to make that comeback, and we all love a comeback story, don't we?
Absolutely, and it's going to be a little bit more of a comeback for some than others. Head and Kwizu, though, rolling in 4th for the moment. Not as dominant as we expect them, you know, from all previous FNCSs, but staying inside the top 5. I think, once again, you mentioned this yesterday, Levin. We just expect greatness from a lot of these players. Seeing them just good or, you know, in a nice spot isn't equivalent to great. We sometimes put them down a bit too much.
Yeah, I think that speaks volumes about what they are as a duo. They had a quiet day and finished in 4th, right? That should really strike fear in the hearts of the other players in the lobby. If these guys had a quiet day and only came 4th, then who knows what will happen if they can really start to piece things together like they have for most of the season. We're seeing Ryzen and Phoenix applying some pressure to Vortexia and Castery. Again, Vortexia and Castery were initially towards Chonkers yesterday, but now they've moved further north, and for what reason, they're going to be finding themselves sending right back to the lobby. Vortexia will be knocked. Castery now trying to do everything he can to avenge his teammate, but it's going to be real difficult. Phoenix, though, actually will go down, and, you know, Ryzen isn't all there in HP. And so it's a 1v1 now.
I feel like I'm at a train station with, like, you know, 17 trolleys on the line. All I can hear is chugga, 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 over and over and over again with all these SMGs. And I kind of like it. These are 2 of the most aggressive duos from day one. Castery and Vortexia in general, aggressive for the entire season, Levin. You would not expect them to be the ones getting pushed, them to be the ones to be responding to a fight. But that's what's happening because Ryzen has to switch up his game plan completely from day one. 61 points is not enough to push towards that top 10. And now the reversal is there. A 2v1 situation for his opponent. Castery is really just locking down as much as possible, keeping his team alive.
Yeah, and Castery, the elimination went through, so he gets the siphon. Ryzen does a good job there just to sort of nullify that factor. And now it's about winning another 1v1.
It's not over yet, though. Never mind. As I say it, he rattles right through. Castery down, and that's gonna shape the game in such a different way. I am not like downplaying the just impact of Castery and Vortexia being on the map, Levin. They just make things absolutely atrocious for so many duels. With them gone this early, before placements even handed out, that changes things for a lot of people mid-game.
Yeah, and it can have a positive impact, but it can also have a negative one, right? Because Phoenix, Ryzen, obviously they win the fight inevitably, but at the end of the day, now that interrupts their game plan, right? It means that they're gonna have to commit more time to actually trying to get back involved in this game rather than looking to play in some power positions. We'll see how they bounce back. They wouldn't have had the best day yesterday, but another team that will feel they can do much better today.
Stompy Jew on screen right now. I feel like this team I'm the most scared of in terms of looking at anyone from 20th to 30th because they made the most mistakes game one. And that might seem a little bit backwards, but at the same time, the more mistakes you make, I feel like you have so much more to review, learn from. It's easier to see what to do right. They went for so many different fights. They were down on Surge a few times and things weren't looking good. You all know about Stompy, and we saw what Drew could do inside the qualifiers. I feel like this team definitely has some secret game plans we don't know of, but will impact the game today.
Yeah, they're super consistent team. You referenced the qualifier too. They're one of the few teams to get 10 points in every game in that qualifier, right? When they hit the ground running and they have their rhythm, they are very much a force to be reckoned with. And, you know, they're not having to deal with some of the shambles we've seen at the Daily Bugle in previous sessions. So I'd like to hope that today they can find a bit of better form, but definitely one of the more consistent teams in this lobby. Thomas HD and Tayson posturing up on this hill. They struggled with Surge yesterday, and Tayson on Twitter saying, look, we shouldn't be struggling with Surge, acknowledging that there's going to be a lot of pressure on them because they're two of the best players we've ever had in Fortnite. And yeah, they came top 10 after day one, but many people would argue, you have the best loot in the game. We expect more than top 10 for you guys. So they'll have that pressure, but if there's anyone who could deal with it, I'm sure it's Tayson and Thomas.
I mean, they are the day 2 de facto duo, I feel like. Every FNCS we've seen, Thomas HD just absolutely becomes super online, like gigabit speeds on that second day. So I feel like they have a little bit of a pedestal from that first one. Talk about a pedestal, a tower, a spot that should just be etched on the map now for following FNCS. Pink's Cavern, I feel like, is what it should be called, or Pink's Mountain, maybe. Him and Anas are just up here 24/7, dictating who can move where inside the whole lobby. They are like, you know, just guards, making sure that there's a cost to every decision you make, Levin. And they've had so much good surge from it, so much good positions overall, too. Looks like they got zone as well. This might be their game.
Yeah, when you look back at their games yesterday, they could have had an even better day, right? There were a couple games where they were set up to really do what they do best and dominate high ground. And, you know, as much as I don't like to blame things on RNG, there were a couple instances where they did genuinely just get a bit unlucky, right? And so you like to think if it balances out today, these guys could have a monster day. People question Shire whether they'd be able to handle high ground with all the other top high ground teams in the lobby. That was not even a question for them. They definitely are ready.
Yeah, the answer was 2 victory royales. No one right now in EU is catching up to that standard, and it was one that was from this zone specifically that they rolled in and won the entire game. It almost looks like a little bit of a mimic where it started kind of near Cavern, then pulled down a little bit overall. So I want to see if they can do that once more. Vino and Joe, though, we talked about them a little bit. They're going to be inside the storm currently. Still a long ways to go. We saw the pattern like this also develop for a lot of teams, Levin. Kind of moving late, being behind. They start to, I don't know, maybe stack up their decisions a bit too much and it becomes overwhelming. Over here, if you make a mistake, it could just cost you your game.
Yeah, for sure. They're deep in the storm, and again, when we talk about timing in your games, that's one of the things that can sort of throw things off. It'll be fun to see how they play out. I don't think many people expected them to do as well out of Sleepy as they did, but Vino's no stranger to proving people wrong, and I'm sure he'll try to do that again by pushing his way in to that top 10.
Right now, I believe everyone's just searching to get towards that top 35 slot. That's exactly where placement starts, just 1 point. But at the same time, you can see teams like Rise and Phoenix, like Cassia, Vertexia, pushing for those eliminations as well. 3 points per. It makes the format a little bit more favoring to those aggressive teams, the ones who are popping off in low ground. While you guys are watching all these height teams, you know, go for the win. There will be many stories also happening in those underground boxes back and forth. 8 ELM games, I feel like, start from the dirt towards these end games. But on this second zone, Levin, many opportunities, a balance of both water and lots of hills on the land, but it's not too crazy like the Cavern or the Lumberyard, right? With this zone, there's a lot more flexibility for many players. I feel like that's both a good thing and a bad thing.
Yeah, I think it very much means we're going to have one of the situations we felt like we were having a lot yesterday, where you have these games that maybe these teams you weren't expecting to do as well just because the zone sort of gives them that advantage. Wow, what are these shots? Oh my goodness.
Maybe it's overstimulation. Remember, Lake Default, 3 teams every game, plus they're here right now. I feel like their arms must just be on fire and they have the most practice compared to everyone else in the lobby.
Yeah, these guys really don't play around when it comes to the eliminations. Very much looking to take advantage of the fact that you get 3 per. And the Let's Squeeze. Shire, very much to many, including myself, a surprise team. Almost came out of nowhere, right? Like a snake in the grass, but to be fair, I mean, they have all the experience in the world.
Let's say how we say it, right? We roasted them for weeks. Me and you legitimately roasted them for weeks because we expected so much more. It's Analyx X Squeeze. Analyx was like the I don't know, the guinea pig child of every region. Everyone just realized how good he was for like, I don't know, 3 months, and everyone was watching his cash cups, his FNCSs, how he approaches the game, how he approaches, you know, being a teammate inside his trio back last year. Now I think the transition was just a little bit tough overall, maybe switching modes, but they've really found their groove on day one.
Yeah, this is one of the few teams that have really been playing with each other, and so they've had to fight through adversity on many occasions, right? There's not many people in Fortnite that they can say they've been doing or playing with someone since 2020. Me and you, we've only been casting for a couple months, right? We don't even go back that far. So these guys have been through it with each other, and they'll continue to go through it with each other. But this is a fight that makes me get really excited. Thomas and Tayson versus Link and Default.
And why is this fight happening? It's Storm Surge right now. It basically dictates, you know, you have to do damage or the server will start doing damage to you. It makes every single person on the map get active. And right now, Tayson and Thomas have not done enough damage. Maybe they were prioritizing position, looting. They were really looking at other teams. As a result, they're 111 damage below every other team on the map right now, under that threshold. They have to really be forcing this fight. Now that lightning will start to strike. 25 damage, I believe, every 5 seconds. Tayson really needs to start pushing in and maybe getting some work done. Thomas up top, they'll have to go through their shield reserves. The other players can't actually hear the noise or see visually that lightning striking. That's just us right now on broadcast. That being said, if their shield does crack, Link and Default will hear that. And now, box is completely open. Walls gonna be basically transparent, see-through, and shot through as well with those edits. Tayson is gonna be low at 54. 79 above, though. That's the cost, actually. It's gonna be good overall for Thomas and Tayson. They're going to be looking fine for now, but you know about the Storm Surge 11, it can go back down very fast. You want to be like 200 above. That's a good spot to be at.
Yeah, and it's interesting, right? Because we saw them early in this game. They were posted up on a hill. Looked like they were sort of just looking to wait for players to start rotating through, but where they were, there just wasn't a high enough volume of players, right? That congestion wasn't there, so there wasn't the opportunity to get the shots that they needed. And so you see the alternative is to just try to look for a team to box fight. But like you say, that other team knows that they're desperate, and so they won't give them an inch. Link and Default will look to control the pace of the fight, slow it down, and just force Thomas and Tayson to chunk damage. Similar to what we're seeing here from Diox and Waffle, they are just being forced to chunk it. They're looking for an opportunity to find a team, but there's no one there, Diox. Maybe look a bit more to your right and you'll see something.
It's just tough. This is one of those teams I was talking about, you know, some of them were playing underground, starting from the dirt, getting a lot of eliminations towards that end game. Diox and Waffle were just driving around in cars in like the 7th, 8th zone. They were having fun. Felt like they were just watching, you know, kids at a trampoline house jumping around, and it was getting them points too. It was nuts. They kind of slowed down towards the end of the day overall. I think they hit all the way towards second or maybe even first overall. We're looking at points towards those earlier games. Now though, this is tough. I mean, yes, they're surviving, but look at their inventories overall. Heals is going down, down, down. When does Surge end? What's the context? You might be asking. There's a certain player count that needs to be achieved by the lobby. This first iteration that we just saw, it's 70. So now with 69 players alive, it's gonna just turn off. In a few more zones, it'll be back up, and the server will require 50 players to be up and alive. So right now, there's 19 more than, you know, that is needed. And Diox and Waffle know that. They know, you know, with EU being this stacked, with day 2 coming in 11, there's just no way that players are gonna slow down and not, you know, go down at all. It's gonna be tough for them. They need to get this damage.
Yeah, even though it's turned off, they know they will need to do the more damage, otherwise they will run into more issues later on, and it gets more difficult to deal with it later on, where everybody in the lobby is more congested together. There's less opportunities. We're seeing a replay from Rescard and Scram really in the thick of it. And this is what can happen, the chaos that ensues when teams are fighting for Surge. Stormy, right, wasn't able to escape it, and he will go down. This is the kind of thing that happens, Shio.
And that's a top 10 team as well. Just imagine, you know, you're rolling in with the day, you have the game plan, you're actually Stormy as well. You know, their plans are just amazing. They just seem so dynamic, but they're going down to the pressure. If that team is going to be unable to struggle inside a lot of these, you know, situations where there's so many boxes around, I wonder what things look like for Link and Default on your screen, for Tayson and Thomas. Look at the map right now. Everyone just waiting. Just one AR is shooting on the map at the moment. Everyone else is focused on that rotation, and they pop the peppers. They start to move. That gives you a huge speed boost, and they're off on the ways. No one's even looking at them. Almost in zone. Ah, so close to being flawless. Link makes it in, though, and Default's beside him. That used to be the trickiest thing for this duo. Getting in unscathed and not getting their competition interrupted by that movement, but they just overcome that hurdle.
Yeah, and they're actually in a pretty decent position. I think they wanted to maybe get a bit further in on a bit of a high elevation on the hill, but where they are at, will be all right. They'll be able to hold some of the teams behind them trying to get their way in as well, and that extra damage will do wonders for them. And that's in pink now, and that's the only EU player with a finals VR in all 4 years of FNCS history. Look, there's so many great things I could say about this player. Truly is someone who I feel is underappreciated. One of the greats.
He's a great of the lobby as well, while everyone else is looking from the bottom up, looking to fix mistakes. Pink and Anas, I feel like one of 2 duels right now next to Girls and Clown who don't want to switch anything up. We're on top of that ladder of chaos, looking down at all the destruction. They're in first place and they want to stay there.
And on the left of your screen is Hen and Queasy, who will be fighting for that first place slot. Currently sitting in 4th and holding teams in. Bit difficult. Hen's got this AR in hand, and of course the legendary version is going to be great, but in this scenario I'm sure he'd much rather have an MK, a bit more of a higher fire rate, to just continue to really just squeeze this team in. This is where you never want to be in the lobby, isn't it, Shayo? This is so difficult to deal with when you just have everybody forcing you back against the zone, and not much HP as well. Your mats will slowly run out and you will fall, and that's exactly what happens. And this is great because Queasy and Hen can now go collect that loot as they tunnel through.
Very nice to get a refresh for them. Now we see the perspective of a situation like that. Waffler by himself, so down on Surge, 248 below. One player only has around 200 HP, and a lot of the players around him for the moment should be damaged as well, so I'm not sure where he's gonna find this. Not to all in 2 players, a whole duo by himself with this loadout. Yes, that MK7 assault rifle will be enough to maybe rattle down a few of those shield bars. I'm not sure if we can confirm any eliminations. He's now fully run out of heals, shields as well. Wallflower is going to be going down. That's tough on the right side. Bad Sniper. Running one of the first games that we saw of his, FNCS career yesterday. He's looking really good right now with DKS in terms of position, loot, and mats, but what I'm not seeing is the damage. What I'm seeing is a little bit of passivity. And when that happens with this duo 11, I don't feel like they ever end up waking up, so this might spell disaster already for their endgame.
Yeah, I like to think that they're in a much cooler mindset than usual, but they may be forced to rush the issue a bit and really turn the tide of their game, because staying below is just only going to force them to tank through more of their resources. Bad Sniper actually will go down to Chico. So DKS in the first game being put in a solo clutch position, it's not out of the realms of possibility for him. The gauntlets will give him a couple extra charges to move once the zones start moving. But if anybody figures out that this guy is a solo, you can be assured that his time in the lobby will not last too long.
A clutch from this position is literally the reason why some people win FNCSs. It's the difference maker when you're a solo in the top 5, in the top 3 with your teammates. 3rd place right now for DKS and Bad Sniper. All he needs to do is survive. You're noticing people going down in the feed. Every time that happens is basically a placement point almost allocated for DKS. 147, he just wants to live and just expend those mats, stay alive. Meanwhile, Link, same story, 154, just ahead of that 3rd place team. Depending on who goes down first, you might see a shift in the boards.
Problem is he doesn't have mats to expend. He's out. He's all the way out, and so the time is really ticking for him. I think he might spot these builds here to his right. There is something. Yep, he will. And that's 200
River in the middle right now. Yeah, he's in the low ground. He doesn't have to deal with that water, though. We'll stay on land. He can't really find anything in terms of a pad or anything towards that backside. He's really tanking the zone to find the launch pad, but you need HP to be able to jump from it, Link. Unfortunate. I like the decision-making, though, to maybe get towards that spot, but it was just so far up. One of the negatives of being on low ground overall. Meanwhile, DKS, I think, also just had no other options, no mats. He'll be alive with his. We'll see what he can do. Picking an Us. Set up in position to fully a complete solo right now. Pink is just diving straight inside that box. Shots from the backside too, but Anas is there to deny it. And this is the position where we see VR's Pink, Anas with a refresh, looking to control this game.
Yeah, those mats were so important. You saw how Pink's material count shot all the way up. You can see Noah and Aqua and Heighten, so whether or not they'll be able to get that right now is a different question. But can Noah and Aqua hold on to it? You can see Aqua isn't looking too strong in terms of HP, and the materials are starting to dwindle as well.
X-Squeeze moving in, and Lex not alive either. Every single person, it looks like, inside the top 5 has to play as a solo to keep They're positioned on the boards, alive. Meanwhile, Noah Riley swinging all the way towards the front, fighting Trulex and Chico. You can see on the left side of your screen. Putrick, though, sneaks that high ground with Toos, and Toos is inside the box with Noah Riley. He takes Noah almost down, has a hair of HP, and it gets snipped. A nice fade. Aqua now right below that box has to hear his teammate go down. Elim and gone. He's going to be by himself.
Yeah, you can see X Squeeze as well now. One of those solos. Him and DKS are both struggling, but DKS was able to find an elimination on the backside in the bottom right. And so this is huge for him. It keeps him ticking in the game just that bit longer, and that's exactly what he needs. He can't go for the win right now, but all he needs is the extra placement points. They go a long way when we go to the last game, and so he will just continue to stay alive.
DKS takes down first place, and he's in second, or maybe just chops it in half. Maybe Pink has to possibly go for that clutch as well to keep that slot up top. Putrick and Tusto on that top side. They're going to be looking down momentarily for some sprays for that pressure. And we saw this on day one. No one was able to really retake on high ground, except for that maybe very last game. And Tripper, and one of the players who can have a possibility to do that, goes down as well on the low. No one's even finding DKS, though. It's going to be tough. All he has to do is just stay around these walls, make sure nothing bad happens, but we do smell solos down there. It's an intuition for these European players, and he gets taken out.
X Squeeze be spotted out as well. It seems he's getting sniffed out from below. He's got to hold on to his wall, but there's players above him as well. He will go down as well.
Now we have Scram, no ref guard. Saw this many times before, and we can expect greatness. With 13 HP, though, we can't have that Scram classic of dipping in and outside that zone. Really playing the timing very well, a player who can do it so well. He's not gonna have the possibility. Here goes Floki for high ground up against Putrick. It's a retake. It's just himself, though. I don't see Clement. Where is he? Toos, he's not gonna fall for such simple tricks. He keeps that high ground secure and alive.
Yeah, they did incredibly well to stay composed. Floki was no real threat, and they treated him that way. Scram, though, as a solo, will eventually find his maker, and he will go out. Trulex and Chico are the only duo now in between high ground and low ground, as Janice and Vortex look to try reclaim their first game success.
Every single team is sharing the same two boxes, and Vortex and Janice, if we have those guys in the equation, they just solved that problem with 2 shots and a big pop. That's what I like to see. Vortex with the sprays, Janice there to follow up, and now they control that little bit of a low ground layer. Still, Andy in the way with art skill as well. 2 solos in the mix. Swag and Pablo alive, but their mats are running out. High ground is still staying quiet. Putrick have to do absolutely nothing. They can just win this game. Pablo has so much ammunition. Just a few mats, though. He's gonna go for the end on Trulex. That's a double shot. It looks good, and he's down. Chico is gonna be the next one. Surprised after that jump scare. Pablo might go for the re-edit. There's no chance for that revival. Chico's gonna just fade dodge towards the right side. Pablo will move in through this labyrinth. Can he solve this maze? Art skill on the retake that Toos has to deal with, and they're not even running out of the mats. I'm not sure what type of treasury, what type of economy this entire duo has, but it's gonna be split in half. What a shot from Toos. Catches the head. This man only hits the most prime prestige shots you can find, and it's lucky that he had all the mats as well. 4 different teams, and he's gonna be the focus. Chopped down now by the Flame Boys back and forth. The fire's too hot. Toos might not be able to survive. He gets burned, and he's down. We have new high ground kings.
Cerebral play from the Danes, and they are on fire. Swag and Pablo will drop down now to try and claim the first victory royale of their day. Swag will go down, and so it's left in the hands of Pablo. They've done so well so far, and now in a 1v1 against Janice, who won against Vortex. Janice and Vortex in a 2v1. Vortex is up, but with not much HP. Will he be the difference maker? Will he decide to go up and try and take Pablo on? Pablo trying to hold on. He doesn't have the materials left. He's dancing around in the zone. He realizes he can get Vortex. That's going to be the siphon that will come through, but will it come in time? 10 seconds. He will get it, and so he stays up. And now can he hit the crucial last shot? No! Yes. Janice will pick it up. They won game 1 of day 1, and they win game 1 of day 2. The German Giants come through again.
I can't believe it. It's deja vu. And in a way, that's more special than that first day as well. Janice and Vortex, this is not a position where they usually win games. There's a little bit more sense of control overall. But Janice, the clutch minister himself, just rolls in, hits that big shot, and that's like the 3rd one we saw in the end game. Toos was hitting them too. What a way to start off EU.
That was phenomenal from Janice and Vortex. Like you said, they're used to winning games on height, but they did it from low. And like we said so many times yesterday, these guys like to get in early, get their victory royales done quick and easy. Guys, tell me on the desk, how did that all break down? There was so much going on, so many of the top duos playing as solos. Break it all down for us, guys.
Shia, Wager, and Levin, thank you guys so much. Game number 1 or 7 in the grand scheme of things is done. My goodness, chaos. Just chaos as far as the eye can see. Boop, I was very surprised to just watch these solo riders, right? One of their duel mates falling early, and then they just had to fight by themselves. What happened in this game?
Yeah, you couldn't script a better end game there. That was ridiculous. Almost coming through Swag and Pablo with a clutch. Unfortunately there, he did get the siphon the last minute. I thought he was about to do it, but a little swimming dolphin dive action coming through from Janus and Vortex was just enough to come through. I mean, I don't know how Janus and Vortex are able to do it again, right? Yesterday, they sort of slowed off towards the end of the final, but now Son of Day with another victory out, of similar fashion, that has to give you so much more confidence going into this, final 5 games now.
Yeah, and I think that final moment summarized the team as a whole, right? You've got Janus, the most experienced player almost in the entire lobby, having 12 in a row, actually, FNCS finals, right? He's only missed one, which was Season X, all the way back in Chapter 1, a long, long time ago, right? And you've got him teaming up with Vortex, who's a relatively newer player to the finals, less experienced, but just incredibly proficient at the same time, right? You see that final 1v1, like or 2v1 in that situation where, usually Vortex, if you're going across water, there's almost no HP right now. Vortex should be going back, and he should be going back to make sure that the opponent doesn't get siphoned. So Pablo, for the example. But the experience and the lack of experience kind of shows here. He goes down. But then the veteran Janus comes up with a clutch. He knows what to do in these pressure situations, picking up that victory royale.
Always put your faith in Janus.
100%.
And it's just so clean, right? In those situations, like Janus just knowing, look, I know the spot that you're in, and I know how low Vortex is. So if I just say, look, you have to finish this off, you're in the storm, I know where you're going to be. Like, I'm just going to challenge you. I have literally every advantage, right? The experience and the different experiences really coming into play there. Because, other people might just panic. They might just be like, okay, well, I have the circle. I just have to stay with this.
Yeah.
That's my only option. But when you're Janus, you're just like, nah. I know he's going to be. I hit my shots. I'm good. So well fought from them. My goodness. I got to turn my attention to the standings, boys. Wow. Earlier on that game, okay, the top 7 all fell. Right? So this is what Sundown would call the shoop inning happening, okay? So we're seeing that the bottom end of these leaderboards start to shift up now, right? Trying to close that gap. Toos and Patrick, though, just still holding on. Pink and Anas right behind them. But now you've got Vortex and Janus here. They're like, hey, first place, we're only 5 points behind. What's going on? We got 5 more games? You want to do this now?
Yeah, it's so close to the top. I think it was kind of interesting. I think Vishu mentioned it while we were looking at the games. I think something like, all 5 duos on top. I think only Anas and Pink were the only ones left there going on through, which is kind of ridiculous. That shakes up the standings and makes it so much more closer at the top.
Yeah, so basically, when in that first moving zone, it was Pink and Anas were the only team in that top 7 who were still in it. Link was so close, but he ended up going down right at the start of that first moving zone. So it's like, that shaked up those leaderboards massively. But, we did see Vortex and Janus win game 1 yesterday and then fizzle out a little bit. And they're a very momentum-based team, and we saw that yesterday. So I'm thinking they've got the good momentum now. If they have a good game number 2, we're going to see, hopefully, maybe them continue to fire up the leaderboards at the same time.
With Pink and Anas as well. My goodness. Again, I talked about this all day yesterday, right? It's so difficult to kind of pick a favorite, right? Just the sheer amount of raw talent we have here in the finals of Chapter 3, Season 1. Now, I'm kind of curious to get your guys' quick thoughts on this. We don't have much time, but what do you think is going to change from Game 1 to Game 2? Boop?
Yeah, I think we're going to get a little bit more aggression. Right, again, it is all about feeling yourself out in the first game. We saw some different things coming out of Razen Phoenix, not pushing towards Thomas Sashi and Tayson. We saw people splitting and South Sleepy as well. So I think now we're going to get a little bit more aggression because, you're running out of games.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for that, Boop. But for now, we see the timer. It means it's game time. We got to get back on that bus. So we're kicking it on over to Shy Waiter and Levin2K to take us in.
Thanks so much, Zeke, Boop, Reese. I mean, yeah, when it comes to just how that game 1 looks versus game number 2, many changes might have to be made for some teams, Levin, but they also have that entire day yesterday where they, bought reviewed after the tournament and have that game plan too. So those 2 fixes might just start to clash.
Yeah, I do start to wonder, right? At what point do you really start to maybe gain yourself out of the competition, right? Where you're overthinking some of these things, right? We're seeing teams like Thomas and Tayson looking for better positions than they were yesterday, but it not quite working out. Is that going to play a psychological effect in how they approach the games now? So all the preparation they might have done prior to this might just be thrown out the window, right? These are all factors that will play into things. And to be honest, I think it just makes for more entertainment for us, right? Seeing all these changes all around the map.
Yeah, if there is a message I can give to the players, that game one is not your entire highway lane, merely just a speed bump if it did go wrong. Now, if it did go right, keep driving, keep pushing forward. That being said, still, that was like the fact of game 7, game 8 coming in. That leaderboard change as well is looking pretty mighty interesting. The late game to 11, a game of solos, we see it again today. Is that going to change the way, how things work towards the end game? Janus and Vortex, they sit alive. We'll see in a second because game 8, it's live and it's happening right now.
We got 50 duos ready to go at it again for the 8th time this weekend. And we're heading to Tilted Towers, a place we've watched quite a bit, with 2 duos who seemingly are able to coexist on the standings, but not in the POI. DKS and Bad Sniper will look to do what they struggled to do a lot yesterday in taking down Benji and Savage off spawn. But even with them struggling to do that, they did not struggle to get results and put themselves higher in the standings. You can see they're sitting in 6th, and they'll be feeling like they can do even better. Overall,
yeah, I think this entire drop spot has just been dictated by the glide, right? Over and over again, it kind of determines how your entire game goes, what loot you have access to. I feel like in terms of launch pad drops, that entire skyscraper tower, the big building in Tilted has a few more of those, and we see Benji Savage every time they claim it. Somehow they also get a pad. I'm not going to say scripted, but it rolls in.
I think we all know what that is by now. It's the Benji fishy luck, It's the Benji RNG. We ain't even got to talk about this. Anybody that knows compared to Fortnite just knows that Benji is just luckier than all of us. He harnesses the luck of the whole lobby, and he gets pads every game.
That's what we'd like to see. I think Hen and Queasy are on the downside of that because they've been searching for one for 7 games and haven't found one yet, but hopefully they'll roll through. Oh, man. And then with Bino and Joe, too, I'm not sure what's going on, but I think last game, it was just positional mistakes, maybe Surge overall that kept them a little bit further back. They maintained their 50th place slot, though, but definitely want to see it go up.
Yeah, I don't know what you said about Queasy and Hen. We can't give those guys pads, man. With pads, they'll just be way too OP. Right, we got to nerf them a tad bit.
Gotta make it interesting, right? Have to have a nice final game. Now Clown and Girls, we see their drop as well. 2nd, 8th off the first one. But this time, it's revenge from that first game. That's interesting, too. Not being able to play a game from the very get-go drops them 6 places overall. So maybe this time they can catch back up. But I would assume, being top 2, you go down way further with the way the board's changing game after game.
Yeah, it's weird because, we talk about the psychological effects that can, come into play with all these duos. And you typically would say, hey, more experienced teams are better at handling that adversity. But so far in these finals, it doesn't even really feel that way. Some of our more experienced teams have been the ones who have struggled game to game. And the new up-and-comers, like those guys, seem to just be unfazed by what is such a grand stage in the FNCS finals.
It's all about just keeping those nerves under control, and at the same time, it just feels like as well, but not there being an entire team to take care of certain roles in terms of, supreme shot caller rolling in. When it's just you and your teammate, maybe it's a little bit easier to attack the game, approach certain situations inside duos. Saw Tusum Putrick on screen as well. One of the only teams that are rolling in with consistency every single game, 10+ points every time. And we saw in that last game, Levin, and this looks so good. I feel like Tusum Putrick, the advantage they have is they're a team that never hesitates. They see something, they push for it and grab it, whether that's a fight or an endgame situation for height.
Yeah, their execution is sublime, right? When you talk about technically excellent players, you got to mention those guys. They really are always on point. And that's what gives them the advantage a lot of the time when it comes to those situations where you just have to be clinical, you have to be decisive. Their unwavering aggression just really comes into play. And maybe you could say the same thing about Ju here, really putting the damage down. Spots that player, misses the opportunity to get the shot though. Goes back in, there's a wall there. But he'll wrap back round. And this fight will reset. Stompy and Ju will look to go again.
Is this the right adjustment overall for the team of Stompy and Jude? 32nd place overall. Is the mid-game fight really the thing that needs to be added to their repertoire, their arsenal, start really pushing forward their games and get closer towards that top 20, that top 10? Question will be answered in this fight, but I think the issue with them is that they like these long drawn-out engagements. Ju apparently has like heat-seeking built in to his MK7. You can see straight through that bush. A few shots taken. And yeah, Swifty's gonna be very surprised about that one.
Yeah, I know if that was me, I'd be fuming. I'd be going off in our little call there if I was Swifty, but he's got to stay calm. Look, they're trying to take an isolated fight, and it's all good and well trying to take an isolated box fight to help, you know, mitigate the effects of Storm Surge. But if a team like Hutty and Swifty come rolling through, instantly, you know, things start to get a bit dicey, and you have to try to get out of that coop and frack. We're out, been, you know, bossing the lobby by any means. We'll go down to the deal and reason. The duo and reason, they really just treat any duo they come across as fodder, right? They don't even take any regard of who you are or the fact that you're playing in the FNCS finals. If we want to fight you, we will get in.
Absolutely. There's a little bit of a difference overall too between them and Stompy, right? Like, it's just, you can see the difference in speed, lethality. It's nice to see. And I feel like still the one thing we haven't seen is this duo just play the game. What have Hen and Queasy been doing? I've only really seen them on that top overhead, you know, view overall in day number 1, somewhere in mid-ground, trying to live. I just want to see that control ASAP.
Yes, we're seeing them in mid-ground. Right, when you go back and watch a lot of their games from this season, I still think they are an elite mid-ground team, right? Like, they have the ability to boss it from there. But in these lobbies, I just want to see them on high. But it's been so difficult to take high, right? All of these teams who look to posture for it, obviously they've got to deal with the likes of Noah and Aqua, Pink and Anas, Thomas and Tayson. There'll be other teams that'll look to get in the mix as well, even Janice and Vortex, once they wake up from their slumber.
Good. You know, Joe, I think they just took apart an entire duo inside Shifty. Now there's another one rolling in, so the waves will start to just come through. I think game 1 was a set game plan for a lot of people. There's Melody. Yeah, this is not Scram and Earth Squad, my friends. You're not expecting the same fight from game 1. Joe and Vino do not mess around. You see one, you will always find the other. They're a lot more closely tied to the hip. And speak of the duo, and they shall arrive. Scram and Revsguard are here, but I'm not sure they know if it's Joe and Vino. Yeah, they've seen the feed. They must. There's no one else really in this position. Where else will Kefi and Melody land? 60 damage from that spot. That's exactly what Revsguard wanted. Hopefully receive none, and they'll be on their way.
Yeah, and this is what it's all about, right? I think a lot of the time we'll see these teams make these all-in plays to try to deal with Surge. But if you can just sort of go about your business, pick away, 60 tags here, 60 tag there, 60 everywhere, you'll be well and good on the Storm Surge leaderboard, right? So hopefully we don't see these guys struggling with that too much. I feel like every time we get deeper into games, Shia, we're seeing these guys just ending up in these situations where they're just not able to be as effective in tight spaces, right? They're still top players. I'm not going to act like they're like old or anything, but you know, they're not back in their prime a couple of years ago where put them in the most difficult and tightest of spaces and they excel. They still do need a bit of space to operate in.
I like the fact that you're mentioning celebration and then now no longer being in your prime. That birthday for you hitting different today, eh?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're getting a little bit older. And, you know, what's your celebration today, Levin? What are you doing on your glorious 20th birthday?
I am enjoying the best Fortnite players in the world show what they can do. And it's funny that, you know, as we start talking about this, the best Fortnite players in the world are on our screen. Tayson and Top. Okay, let me chill out.
I'll allow it because it's your special day, all right? I'll allow it for one time.
Look, I think the big question around these guys is going to just be, are these guys still the best Fortnite players in the world? At any given moment in the past 2 years, really, if you ask somebody, who do you think is the best Fortnite player in the world? There's a good chance they're going to say Tayson or Thomas. This season, that hasn't always been the case. And so this is going to be their chance, to prove that they are still in that upper echelon of Fortnite players.
10th overall, this is the day that we expect them to do good, and they kind of have to because, once again, there is no day number 3. Lincoln defaults. Chonker Speedway rolling in. this is going to be tough overall. I mean, they're not even at that desert POI, and they're still making this duo cry.
Yes, William and Lecce can't catch a break. Cannot catch a break. And I feel like every time Link gets an elimination, he just goes for the dance. Like, he looks to emote, show off some of the stuff he's got in that locker of his. Some impressive stuff. Thank you as well to production for the birthday message. Appreciate it, guys. One's in the back.
Completely missed
Yeah, you missed it, bro.
I'm just looking at the fight. I'm so sorry.
No, we good, we good. They work hard in the back and showing some love. I appreciate that.
I want to get a little bit of your bias here, right?
Okay.
If there's a present we could give you in terms of one duo just winning, is it Tayson and Thomas? Or is it your prediction? What does Levin's heart truly say? Expose yourself.
My heart wants...
What does your body want? What does your heart want?
My body wants Tayson and Thomas to win. I don't know, man. I love Tayson, you know? How can I not love Tayson? Lovely family as well. Mum and dad wish me happy birthday, so, you know, big up them.
Aww.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think Austin Pink got the opposite end of a present when it comes to game number 1, losing that first place title, but they're not too far behind when it comes to trying to catch up. We'll see if it's possible. 171 overall inside second place. And they have to catch up just a little bit. 174, 3-point difference overall for the duo. This is looking kind of tough though. I haven't seen Pink take this much damage starting off a fight.
Yeah, they got to stay cool in this situation. Pink especially, you can see he's just stuck up against this mountain. There's not much room for him to operate in. And Nas does really well to get Vortexia down. And so Castry now in a 1v2 against two of the better players in the lobby.
You know, we can always rely on Castry and Vortexia to be like the mid-game mini-boss to FNCS. I think literally 8 out of 8 games now we are watching them fight someone new. Everyone is getting the Vortexery experience. I believe that Reese was saying on the desk. Like, I think every single time, and it's on all sides of the board. It's so interesting to see how each duo kind of reacts to it. Pink and Nas also know about all the control they have on this side of the map. They can really force this fight and understand that there's no one going to be in their way when they go back to zone.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Those guys seem to be so erratic in their play style. I've met Vortexia in person. He was far from erratic. You know, just a very cool guy, quiet, you know, just sort of kept to himself. But in the lobby, in the game, he gets busy. Shows you, man. Players really just sort of get into their element once they head inside, can really express themselves.
Seeing the perspective of first all the way down to 5th right now, and off that fight as well, Pink and Anas claim back their title. A crown is going to be shared this game, I believe, by these two teams, because Tus and Putrick are about to get through a fight of their own.
Benji going down. What is going on here?
I'm trying to make it out myself.
That was...
Putrick down 2. That's going to be huge. First place gone to Kinzel and Decipto. So after that whole mosh pit, the entire top side of the board changes.
That was so messy. Oh my goodness. You know, that's one of them real rough engagements to watch. It's exciting, right? Lots of action going on, but can't really see too many winners coming out of that. Kinzel and Decipto, of course, will claim that trophy. But yikes. A lot in terms of how this lobby will play out later on being determined there. Hen and Queasy just tinkering along the line of being above. They're going to need to do a bit more damage. They know those teams will eventually have to move, and so we'll probably look to try hold them out as they make their way to zone.
For Bad Sniper and DKS, this should be best case scenario. Some of these end game interrupting teams, like Tus's, aren't going to be in the equation when it comes to their high ground type of gameplay. Their control-centered but peaceful retake on height and mid ground. They should be allowed to do that a lot more often.
See here, they're in a 2v1 against Mr. Savage, and they were actually the ones that took down Benji. So they knew Savage was alone as a solo, but you saw how slow they played that fight, right? Because if you're in a 2v1 against Mr. Savage, even though you have the numbers advantage, it is Mr. Savage. You don't want to give him an inch. Even that half a second that Bad Sniper had to 1v1 him, you saw how much it took of his HP just to tank that. And DKS quickly had to come to the rescue. So Benji and Savage will go down, but DKS and Bad Sniper, not at tilted, but just outside of tilted, getting the best of them this game.
That's what I wanted to mention, right? The tilted towers off spawn beef goes straight to the grass a little bit off the POI. And then the Chonker Speedway Conundrum as well ends up being finished a little bit away from that POI as well. A lot of these teams, it feels like on day 2, are identifying the patterns on how their opponents move, tracking them, hunting them down, and then taking them out after they have loot, after they have a little bit of a sense of how the game is going. So you're seeing those day 2 adjustments really roll by, at least side by side on these POIs. Now it's a completely new equation for Lincoln Default, a team they haven't really dealt with on either day. Rifle and Marion rolling in right beside them. Everyone's just kind of chilling inside the metal boxes down below. And usually all these trees are burnt down. I'm wondering exactly what's going on here, if someone's storm surge plans changed while rolling into the second day.
Yeah, we often like to see teams get rid of these trees just to give themselves more vision, better lines of sight to hit some of these shots. Vino and Jodo, they look like they're in a bit of a pickle. You can see the armored walls coming out to try add a bit of extra protection, but that's not going to be enough. Joe will be knocked. Vino now with his back against the wall and not much HP. He's got the chug splashes. That's going to be a lot of quick HP that he can add to his tally, but ultimately he ain't got much time to work with regardless. So he will also go down. And it was different teams that took down different players, right? Like we said, these teams will sit in zone and hold you, stop you from coming in. And so that will be the end of their run in this game.
I'm liking these very interesting transfers of power. I feel like, I don't know, I have this headcanon in my head. Every time a team eliminates another one, they gain a little bit of, like, I don't know, the way they play. I feel like every time I see anyone take out Pink, Anas, or Aqua, they end up having a little bit more setup for height, or have that as a part of their personality in the game. Hen and Queasy are the ones that find Aqua. I'm not exactly sure where Noah Riley is, but that seems like a lot of loot for just one body. Might be both teammates. We'll see in just a second. Maybe Noah Riley is up.
Are you predicting a high ground masterclass then in this game from Hen and Queasy? Is that the shy rich pool?
I think so. If Aqua's not there, if there isn't like a, you know, mysterious beat people aren't used to in the lobby, because he did try to take high ground in that first game, and Hen and Queasy have a refresh at this point, with hopefully a rotation that goes well, I feel like they finally get to have a sense of control. They're coming in the same way Aqua is in terms of attacking the zone. This should be one of the best spots to take high ground whenever that's possible.
Yeah, and speaking of spots, these guys are in 4th place on the leaderboard. They won last game, Janice and Vortex. And if you watched yesterday's broadcast, sorry, I know I'm going to sound like I'm repeating myself here, but these guys really on the type of beat of, hey, we're going to do well in game 1. We're going to disappear for about 3-4 games. You guys won't see us. Then we're going to come back in like game 5 or 6, win, or just have a really big pop-off and be super high understandings.
One game wonders, Janice and Vortex, at least on the super pop-off.
The funny thing is, though, right, I feel like there's this narrative, right, that, you know, maybe they aren't able to gain their momentum. I actually do think they're in a very consistent team, I should say, right? I think one of the biggest problems they have is that they don't do a good enough job of mitigating the risk of some of these later zones, right? And so when they don't necessarily get favorable zones, they can struggle, right? They don't necessarily have massive adjustments in their game plan. They just get a bit unlucky with the zone sometimes and can't deal with that.
Adapting is literally, I feel like, more than 70% of these games. So if they are acing that 30% and doing it very well to where it can represent a majority of their points, cool game plan to maybe end up top 5. They'll have to break that stride to maybe get towards that first place spot. We'll see some of the teams below on Surge going for moves, but you talked about narrative, Levin. The narrative of this game has really changed. We're talking about Hen Queasy with the comeback with some of these top teams down. Toos, Pootrick, Pink, Anas, and Aqua as well. Not going to be one of the top teams, or the teams that likes being on top in terms of high ground. 3 high ground teams and 2 teams high on the leaderboard are not alive for the moment. And I see Hen and Queasy next to Trulix and Chico higher than anyone else in terms of bases. We're going to have a very different game right now. Kinzel to sip those alive as well and really thriving from fight to fight. They're the ones that kind of survived that entire Benji entanglement as well. This will be a very different type of game, and already we can see the flare is a little bit fun to watch from Queasy and Hen. They're moving in with the swings. They're looking pretty spry as they do so. The front side of the zone with the potential now to build that base up towards the skies for height. They have everything set up. We talked about the other high ground base, Chulex Chico. Hen actually took down Chico while moving here. This man nonchalantly takes out the only opponents that were in a position to get the height, and they're bullying an armored wall. Is there enough time to get this down before that resurrection comes through? Absolutely. The pressure's there. That's insane.
They're going to keep it going as well. That's nice. Hen, an absolute powerhouse. He does it like nobody else at times when he goes berserk mode. And so we'll see whether this really is going to be their game to claim high ground with some of their opposition not there to stop them.
Yeah, that top floor, the penthouse suite, it is empty. Thomas HD, Tayson, you'll notice they're only looking up right now. They kind of have the scope of what's going down around them. Thomas is really focused on that base above, and now maybe on the people around them, maybe seeing who's not editing, looking for pads. They split it up. Tayson's going to be looking for the option to move out, but they're on the front side of zone. Janus Vortex, you talked about the adaptation. They're not going to be able to flow smooth like water this time. They got iced up, cooled down, and Vortex is gone.
You've seen Janus have some crazy clutches, right? In the week where they qualified for the FNCS, Janus had a game like this from this point onwards as a solo, and he went absolutely huge. And so we'll see if he can do it again.
We always know that Scram and Rescard are going to be some of the duels that get picked apart at the very start. Janus not going to find a shot. It should be very important to land one soon, though. 158 below. That zone will start to strike at him from the skies. He finds one solo he can kind of bully, and he's really rattling it away. It's a duo, actually. He's making it look like it's a solo with the way he isolates these fights. Meanwhile, we look over at height. Hen and Queasy, the fact of first place for the moment, it looks like, how has this happened? How have they taken over the board? They're looking to maybe have a name in this game, but look, it's Alex and Andy. The people you never expect to take height, but they do, and they make it very difficult to retake. They invest so much to keep things alive. They're up. DKS and Bad Sniper tried to hold on to the high ground as well. They got denied. Who will reign supreme as Thomas HD and Tayson look to take height as well. They're going for the full retake. Janus on the right side is also trying to clutch. He finds a little bit of damage, but Thomas HD and Tayson, they have the clouds and under their control.
They went into the back of the zone. It looked like maybe they were tanking a bit too much HP. Was it going to be worth it? At the moment, it seems like it is, because they have control of high ground, and this is where they want to be. This is where they will feel utmost comfort. And it's from this point onwards that they can really determine how these standings look.
Janus still has second place under wraps for the moment. This man's basically using Shadow Clone, moves all around. It seems like I'm watching two players playing and still shooting at the same time, having pressures on both ends, but it's too much. He goes down. Clown and Grolls now. He'll start to move in. Second place, they take it over from Janus.